From the bottom, we out here getting it. Don't know what a limit is. Only surround yourself with people you plan to finish with. Consistency the key, unlock the door to your dreams. Prepare, plan, and execute, complete, and then repeat.
What up? What up? Back with another episode of From the Bottom podcast. As always, we got your host Fitz. We got Ty.
Gang.
We got Shalisha.
Good evening.
We got Tati.
Hello.
Real quick, before you do anything else, make sure you go hit that like button, subscribe button, comment, share, all that great stuff. Support us. Make sure if you're looking for some coaching, you check out fitzmindset.com. Email me, robertalec93@gmail.com. Everything's in the description. All the links, all the additional information is in the description. Also, make sure you check us out at fitzmindset on Instagram, fitzmindset on Facebook. We're going to be on Clubhouse as well. Make sure you look out for that Clubhouse invitation in the description as well. What are we thinking? Every Wednesday or Thursday, one of those 2 days. We're going to try to get on there and help some people. So make sure you check us out. We also got the 365 Till I Die playlist dropping. We're going to be doing a short little snippet video for every single day of the year for those people that need that extra accountability. So be on the lookout for that. And let's get into it. All right. So we found ourselves a few days ago on Clubhouse actually discussing the topic for this week, problems and solutions. As Shalisha would say, challenges and solutions. And so I decided to throw a monkey wrench in and switch the topic up about 35 minutes ago. So I'm sorry to all of the co-hosts who do not know about the topic. I sent it out in a text message, but I switched it up because, I didn't want to be bored during the podcast and I didn't want to have a conversation we already had. So
No message.
we got something along the same lines, but a little different. So there are some people out there that struggle with what I call the worst case scenario effect. And pretty much what this is that they actually haven't been through the thing that they're afraid of or the thing that's holding them back, but they come up with all of the reasons why it's going to fail. And they base their actions on the worst case scenario. And I used to do this all the time. There is a time where I was honestly not going to go to college because the bus was running 5 or 10 minutes off the schedule of my class. So I'd be like, I can't go to college because what if the bus is late and then I'm not on class on time and then I get an F because I'm not there? And what if the teacher takes attendance all the time? And all these different things were literally going to hold me back from going to college. So I really want to talk to you guys about this worst case scenario and see, is it helpful? Have you used this in your life before where you think of the worst case scenario and it's helped? What do you guys think? I'll open it up with Ty.
Call me out like that. Okay.
I'm just trying to shout you out.
Okay, brother. Okay.
We doing things different now. We not doing the staring. We know exactly who gonna answer.
Hands up, don't shoot.
Can't guarantee.
This guy.
I got my badge on. I can't guarantee.
Oh my goodness, what?
I'm out here dating the feds.
No.
I'm actually a state employee.
This guy.
That's what they are. What? Oh, feds.
I would say I had those moments probably when I was playing more of like that victim mentality. So it was more of like, oh well, if I single out one thing or a few things, I wouldn't do it. I talk myself out of it. I doubt myself, and then I would make this bigger commotion about the issue when it wasn't that big of a issue. It was more of a challenge rather than a problem. I made it into a problem rather than attacking the challenge in order to see if it was a problem or not a problem. So when I had that victim mentality, I did that a lot.
So the victim mentality was you would were you blaming the situation? Is that what you mean by the victim mentality?
Yeah, a little bit of it. Yep.
Was it legitimate? Like, was it really something that could hold you back?
No.
What's an example? Like, was it?
It was just more of like, um, just using it as a crutch and an excuse. An example, man.
Did it ever hold you back? Like, do you look back? Did it ever get in the way of you doing something that you wish you would have done?
Oh yeah, 100%. I almost didn't go to Colorado for school or football, just because I made up excuses like, oh, it's too far. Oh, I'm not gonna have nobody up there. Um, my mom wasn't particularly like supporting it at first. Um, just a range of emotions and just stuff that was BS. But I'd say it held me back in some aspects, but not all the way. I still push forward and push through it to get to where I'm at right now.
What do you think, Shalisha? Because I know that you're always talking about the emotions and stuff like that, and I know that can be a roller coaster. And most of the time, when I see this worst case scenario, it is highly emotional based.
Mhm.
So, have you dealt with this? And if so, what are some ways that you work through it?
Now I try not to think of the worst case scenario because my mind thinks of like things that probably aren't going to happen, and it does hold me back. Well, it has held me back in the past. I would focus too much on the worst case scenario instead of what could happen that's positive. So now I try not to do that.
So would you say that you can't handle the worst case scenario, or you just try to not focus on it?
I can handle it, but how I am is like, it's not just that one simple worst case scenario, it's like times 100.
So
then
worst case scenarios.
Yeah, and then I start like psyching myself out and freaking myself out instead of when they say prepare for the worst and hope for the best. Then I don't even start hoping for the best. I just start preparing for the worst.
Okay.
So now I just try to be more positive and focus on the best, but also have like a backup plan in case it doesn't go the way that I exactly wanted it to go.
So you do have a backup plan, but you're not really focused on the backup plan. You're focused on
we're just going to focus on the original plan. If we have to use the backup plan, then it's there and ready to go, but we're going to still stick to that original one.
So I think that brings up another interesting question for everyone, and maybe you could jump in, Tati, is when we talk about backup plans, how helpful are those? Like, is that you admitting that you're not going to do what you said you were going to do, or what is the backup plan actually for?
So in regards to the backup plan, my perspective on it is it's there in case some unforeseen event takes place that requires you to then turn to, plan B, plan C, where maybe you kind of thought, okay, this could happen, and if it does, then I have these preparations in place to combat these wrenches, that get thrown into whatever I'm trying to do. So I don't see it. It doesn't have to be like an incompetence thing, like, oh, because I'm incompetent, and I don't know if my original plan is the best. Because if you're not confident in your first plan, what makes you think the backup ones are going to go well? It's like you gotta be able to plan either way. So I don't know.
So why do you guys think that the backup plan isn't considered just the plan? Like, why is it a backup plan and not just like, this is part of my plan? Why is it something completely separate?
Go ahead, Shalisha, go ahead.
I gotta ponder it for a little bit. Usually when I do a backup plan, it's if all else fails, or like if Tatiana was saying, if something happens that I wasn't planning on happen, at least I'm prepared with the backup plan.
Well, I'm thinking the backup plan, it's the original plan can stand on its own 2 feet. It's not like the components of the backup plan are necessary in order for the original plan to work. And I think that's why they're seen as separate from the original plan, because the original plan can work. However, should something happen with the original plan that wasn't foreseen, then I have this part. Excuse me. Wow. Excuse me. I have the backup plan covering whatever thing is going on with the original.
Okay. No, I understand. I think I was just throwing that question out there to kind of to make things interesting and get everyone thinking.
What about you?
So
You
for
got a
me,
backup plan?
I don't think I have a backup plan. I think that I know what I want, and I don't look at it as a backup plan. I look at it as another option that I could use to get to what I want. So, like, let's say that I was like, I don't have like 3 other people just chilling. Like, okay, if Ty, Shalisha, and Tatiana don't show up for the podcast, I got a backup plan. Like I'm focused on what we have going on right now. And so will I be, if you guys all just said, I don't want to do the podcast, would I be unprepared? I don't, maybe, but then at the same time, that's when you're tested. And, some people rise to the occasion, some people don't. But I really think that, there's a fine line between like thinking about the worst case scenario and that backup plan, because I think in order to make the backup plan, you have to be thinking about the worst case scenario. So what I'm really trying to dig deeper into is, how do we help people that they spend so much time on the backup plan or the worst case scenario that it's actually getting more energy than the plan that's going to take them to the next level?
I've struggled with this personally, and what I can tell you to those people from personal experience is you can't always plan for everything, and there are just, sometimes it just doesn't work out. Sometimes you want something and it doesn't happen the way you want it to, and it's not fair, it's not the best thing, but you gotta, sometimes you just have to accept that and just understand with, everyday life is like taking a bet. You're always throwing the cards on the table and seeing, if you come up winning or losing. So it's like, it's not like a game of chess where you always make these strategic moves and you should win in the end if your moves were better. Like sometimes you're just betting and you don't really know if the house is going to clean you out or not. It's just, that's life. So sometimes you just got to take those risks, you got to take those steps, and you got to, plan the best you can, and, try to, okay, sometimes it's this or that, try to see what you can see, think of what you can think of, but at the end of the day, there's only so much you can do. Some things are just out of your control. You can only control what you can control. So it's best to just not worry about the things that you can't control. Like you can't control other people. You can't control the weather. You can't control whether it's going to rain or shine. And, this has been a personal experience of mine. Like when I was, I'll give an example. When I was in college, I was the president of a student organization, and we were trying to put on a festival. So basically like a music festival, like a Coachella, but of course, much smaller scale. And I had artists, found performers, had a venue, but the issue was the event was, set to take place in late April in Colorado. If you've ever lived in Colorado during that time of year, then you know that that's when a lot of changes in the weather happen. Namely, there's a lot of switching between sunny days and rainy days, and a lot of days with wet snow. It's a period of transition. So when you try to hold an outdoor event during that time of the year, you're kind of betting on the weather being good. And just because of the circumstances, the university could not provide us with an indoor location to host the event, just because of how much power would be needed for the amplifiers. and spaces were already reserved and things like that. So just kind of, we started planning this in January and just crossing our fingers that when April, whatever came, that, the weather would be great and people would be able to come out and listen to some good music. And it ended up working out to where the weather was not great. It was cloudy and it ended up raining that day. And so the event ended up, not working out. We tried to move to an indoor location, but because of the last minute changes, people got lost. People had a hard time finding it. So, you can try to plan for things and you can try to have backup plans. And at the end of the day, there's only so much you can do. And sometimes things don't always work out the way you want them to. And it's just about having that thick layer of skin to be able to handle that, and just know that you can do everything right and things still go wrong. I think it was a book I was reading, and it was about decisions and results. And I think this kind of relates to that. It's you can make good decisions and still get bad results. It's just, there's just some things, even when you do, I keep saying this, you could do everything right and things still go wrong, and you can only control what you can control. So the best thing to do is just not stress about what you can't control and just do your best, put your best foot forward, and, always try. Because, at the end of the day, if you never try, then you've already failed, because you never know what it could have been. But,
So what do you guys think about that? And that was a great example and explanation of, things that you can't control, things you can control, backup plans. And, I think the main point that, what I'm hearing from Tati, and I think what I'm trying to stress as well, is that, even if you have a worst case scenario, that worst case scenario may not account for the things that actually happen. And when I think of this, I think of, like an airplane. If you're flying on an airplane, the worst case scenario is, of course, that the airplane falls out the sky. That's like the worst case. So there's really not a lot that you can do in that situation, right? Like that's, but people look at things that don't have as big of consequences and make it seem as if the airplane is falling out the sky. So yes, in the case of the airplane falling out the sky, we definitely want backup plans and worst case scenarios, because the consequence of the worst case scenario is so dire, like there's loss of life in that case. But if the worst case scenario for your situation is that you just feel a little bad, like you're out of a few dollars, you look embarrassed, I think that's not a big enough reason to stop you from doing what you're doing. You know what I mean? So one thing that I want to put out there and see if, we could get some dialogue on this is this idea that some people just can't handle a worst case scenario in a backup plan because they're not mature enough and they're not responsible for their lives. So it's almost as if you have a car, right, and you need to put gas in it to get to where you're going, but you're like, well, what if the car, even if I put gas in it, what if it breaks down? What if, there's a bunch of traffic and I can't get through? So then you go spend all your money on a bike. Well, now you don't have enough money to put gas into the vehicle, so you can't get to where you're going. So in that example, you've actually taken all the resources that you have and put it into something else that's not going to get you to where you want to go. So what do you guys think about that? Like, what do you think about how much energy you're putting into these backup plans?
I'll go. I don't think a backup plan is necessarily bad. Used to think that way because there's just like famous quote like your plan B takes away from plan A, and for me, it wasn't really like that because my plan A was to play football, plan B was to go to school, so I did both, and I'm doing school right now, finishing up. But I think it's good to have. I wouldn't even say a backup plan, but just other things in the works. So what really changed my mind was I watched a Nipsey Hussle interview, and he talked about how he had all these things going on. So let's say, for example, he had cryptocurrency over here, and then he had rap music. So he was doing both. He set this up, the cryptocurrency, to where he was making money. So once that started to be able to run on its own, he went back to rapping.
Yeah.
So that was making money while he was rapping, and then he once he set up the rapping, he went to something else. So he had multiple things going on at one time to kind of, I wouldn't even say make up for losses or anything like that, but just to have that safety net, if you'll say that. So I kind of believe in that philosophy of having, multiple things going. It's not really a backup plan. Now, if it all fails and you just have that one thing, I mean that's good, but you should dibble dabble to different things because I think it will benefit you in the future. Now you can give all your energy to plan A, 100%. Give all your energy, but then what else are you gonna do? Don't let that be the only thing that you have, because if it fails, then you have nothing else. So
No, and
personally, I'm okay with it.
I agree. And I think we have to make a distinction between a backup plan and worst case scenario, and also a distinction between something being part of the plan and something being a backup plan. Because when I hear backup plan, I don't hear I'm going to give 100% to cryptocurrency and 100% to rap and 100% to whatever I'm doing. I hear I'm going to give most of my energy to rap and then give some BS energy to crypto. But then the problem is what if this crypto thing requires more energy than the BS energy you're giving it? Like, that's the problem I see, is that the backup plan gets treated as, this sideline thing, and then it's not even as effective. Like, it doesn't even serve the purpose you're trying to get it to serve. If this is your safety net, like, I'm not going to poke a hole in my safety boat. And I feel like a lot of people poke a hole in the getaway boat that's supposed to get them away from the ship if it's sinking. So how do we help people? And this is what I wanted to get into as well, is like, there's a certain responsibility. If you are going to dibble and dabble in multiple things, you have to be responsible and realize that that is not an excuse to not work as hard on that thing. So I wanted to also ask you guys, like, do you think that you can actually get ahead by playing defense?
Defense wins games. That's what they tell us in football. Defense wins games. No matter how good your offense is, if your defense isn't as good as your offense or even better, you'll lose a game. You can't always be on offense. You got to be able to defend too. So I take defense for sure. What about you, Shalisha? Huh?
You think both?
Yeah, I feel like you have to have a good offense and a good defense.
Michael Jackson.
So let me put out an example and see what you guys think about this, right? Let's say I don't know if I could keep talking because I see Tatiana doing all these facial expressions. Am I saying something wrong?
No, Tatiana was just a little
maybe
confused.
she wanted to say something about something.
I
don't know. I'm just saying stuff, and I don't know.
All she gotta do is tap you on the shoulder. Hey, we got plenty of time.
I just wanted to.
We got plenty of time.
To what we were saying here with the defense and the offense, that's a tricky one, because I feel like it depends on what you do. Like, why are you defending against what? In football it makes sense, or in sports, with a lot of sports in there, like basketball, football, you want to be able to defend, because the moment your turn ends, because it will end, whether you score a touchdown or you get a fourth down or whatever happens in football, that leads to the ball switching sides. Once you've made your
Bless you.
Thank you.
Bless you again.
Thank you.
You got to stare at the light and hold your breath or something. That might be for hiccups.
Poor Fitz.
Oh man, I'm listening to the advice over here. With football it makes sense. With basketball it makes sense. Once you've scored your points and then the ball turns over, the moment that other team has the opportunity to, start making plays, if your defense can't block, if your defense can't keep them from making the same getting the same scores or better, then what was the point of what you put up on the board? They're always going to end up ahead of you, and then you're going to be losing in the end. Even if you got the best offense in the world, if you can't stop them from putting points up on the board, then it's kind of like you're not losing that bad, but you're not going to win. Or it's like, that makes sense. But I'm thinking, are there situations where you're not on the defense? Like when?
So I got an example for you. And this is kind of off the top of the head. So with investing, the Robinhood app. Let's just talk
Okay.
about that, because that's something that's been on my mind. So with AMC, how it ran up recently, it was at a low amount. I know Fitz hates this, but it was at a low amount. It's a good example. It was a low amount. I invested, so that's like me being offensive. Like, I'm playing offense, I'm investing, I'm trying to get some money.
Right.
So when it shot up, I was still playing offense.
Yeah.
Once I found out that they were selling half of their shares to these companies and stuff, that's when I needed to play defense, because then I was losing out on the profit that I made and all that money. So I had to make a decision whether to keep playing offense and hold out and do all these things, or play defense, take my money out. So I have that balance. So I took my money out and made my profit. So for me, that would be like playing offense and defense in a real life situation.
Okay. Was that when they were saying they were gonna? It was like that 11 million plus in
That's
shares.
an
They were gonna
example.
sell from time to time, I think is how they worded it. Yep, that was a good time. If you sold around that time, you did really good. Okay, I see what you're saying now. So defense applies in other situations too, like putting your money in the marketplace and risking it with stocks, and seeing what's gonna go up, when it's gonna go down, all that. Okay.
Same thing as real estate. You need to buy if you want to flip a property, you have to buy a property that is worth flipping. You can't buy nothing and then not invest into it or anything like that. So you need to play offense when buying a property, and also defense at the same time.
Yeah, and I think so.
What
When
do you
I
think,
was
Fitz? What do you think? Well, real estate,
when I was
offense or
saying
defense?
when I was saying defense, I don't think that defense is not important, but I don't think that you can be more than average if you play more defense than offense. Like if you're, like if I have $100,000 and I'm playing defense with it, I'm not gonna get more than $100. I'm either gonna keep the same amount, or it's gonna go down over time. So I think at some point, if you're trying to get ahead, if you're trying to preserve, that's one thing. But if you're trying to get ahead, I do think that it takes a certain amount of offense to get ahead. And what I often see is like, I look at defense as for me personally, I'm going to go get a 9-to-5 job and play it cool. Like, to me, that's defense. That's the safety net. That's the I'm not going to get super rich, but I'm not going to be poor. I'm going to be right here where, I'm protected enough to live a comfortable life, but I'm also protected enough to not step out of my comfort zone and really push the limits. So when I'm talking about offense, I'm talking about it for the people that want it all. If you want it all, then you have to go on offense. And yeah, defense is important. Like, sometimes you need a shield to block a stab, but you have to be willing to get stabbed in order to, win the war, essentially. And so I think there are some people that want to win the war, and there are some people that want to, and there goes the camera a little bit. Okay. There are some people that want to win the war, and there are some people that just want to fight the battle. Like, I don't want to just fight the battle. I want to win the war. I want to fight the battle and win the war. I don't want to just fight the battle and then get out and be like, oh, I just got a scratch on me. It's good. Like, I'm willing to get scratched up if it means winning the war. And I'm not thinking on a smaller level, like as far as playing defense just to preserve. So that's where I was coming from with the whole defense thing, because when you start a business and everything, you realize that if you're playing defense, you're not really going to get ahead, because then you're not going to be investing money into your business. You're not going to be investing money into yourself because you're playing defense. You want to save everything. So everything's going to be like, no, I can't spend $500 on marketing, because then what if something happens over here? Or what, like or I need to save this in case this crazy scenario happens where this. You're never going to get ahead like that. So at some point, you have to double down on the offense, I think. And then it becomes easier to play defense because you can put systems in place to where you're willing to take on a certain amount of risk and still be okay. You know, like you were talking about football. If I score 200 points, you know, yeah, they may score 50, but I'm still up 150. And that's how I'm looking at it. You know, like I'm gonna score so much that even if you do get your little whatever, that you're not gonna be able to catch up to me.
On that note, I guess with this better understanding that I have about what we're talking about, I'm probably gonna have to lean towards Shalisha on this one, because in that case, I think it's about having a good balance of offense and defense, because you know, you win some, you lose some, and you can't always guarantee the win. But I think it's, you don't want to go all out and then you lose and that loss costs you everything. So I think it's, you know, in the context of entrepreneurship, of investing, of putting your money out there and trying to reap the benefits and rewards, I don't think you want to put too much out, but you don't want to put too little and now you not getting as much as you could have been, because it turned, like with the AMC stock, like, you know, you got 3 shares and you know that's a nice pretty penny, but had you had gotten, you know, if you had put a little bit more up in there, maybe had, you know, 10, 20, 30 shares, now we talking some big cash, you know. So it's like there's people who had a lot of shares of AMC talking about, I just made all these thousands, all these tens of thousands of dollars. But if you're not, you know, if you're not in it, you know, enough, then you're not really, you know, making as much as you could have. But if you go all in too much and it doesn't turn out that way, like I couldn't have seen that coming. The way it jumped up, like that was that, I didn't know there was going to be a short squeeze. I didn't see that, you know. So it's like, you know, there's just some things where you want to play it, you want to be smart, you want to be, don't give too much, but don't give too little to where, you know, it ends up working out and it's like you could have won big, but because you didn't play as hard as you could have, maybe you didn't get as much out of it. But again, don't give 100% of all your savings into it, because next thing you know, it doesn't turn out the way you hoped and now you broke and you have nothing.
Yeah,
Move smart, not fast.
yeah, which investing is different than, you know, other things, because you're not really in control of it. You know, like you're not in those businesses, you don't control what happens. But if you have your own business, you can control what time you get up and how much energy and effort you're putting into it. There are things that you can do to control more of the outcomes that happen. Not all of them, but most of them. You know, like if you're consistent over time, history shows that good things are going to happen. So I think investing is a little different than other things just because of the control factor. What do you guys think? I know, what do you think, Shalisha? You haven't really been.
I think you have to know which role to play and when to play it. But I think they're both essential.
Yeah. Does it seem like I'm saying that defense is not essential?
No, I don't think so.
Almost.
I agree with your saying. Well, I don't personally. I agree with your saying. Like, if you're about to get stabbed, it's good to have that shield. But to just, like you said, if you're gonna be in the battle, you want to win the war. I get what you're saying. That's how I am. That's why I said it's good to know which role to play and when to play it. I think they both play a good part, as long as you know how to use them.
So Ty said he thought that I was saying defense isn't important. What did I say
think-
that leads you to
I
believe that?
I think you just missed a part in there. Because for you, you're a very offense person because you have the knowledge, you're prepared, disciplined, all those things. And you could double up on your offense. You can be Steph Curry shooting threes from half court if you want to. But a lot of people have to get prepared to be able to double down on the offense like that. So for you, that's why I was like, okay, Fitz can do that. But if I'm just average Joe trying to start off and I don't have all this knowledge or I don't put the time into professional development or do the things that you do, I'm going to have to do both. I'm going to have to play offense and defense, maybe a little bit more defense because my money is not the way I need it to be in order to progress in my vision whatever that may be. So I think starting off, people need to have a little bit of a balance, maybe like a like 60-40. But as time progresses, they can hop on to pushing the offense forward and pushing and pushing and pushing and pushing because they're already prepared, they're already disciplined, consistency and everything, and they're already strong enough to endure anything that may happen. Like for you, if something bad happened, you're able to handle that. Compared to the average Joe, they might have to have the defense take over.
So I have an analogy for what you're saying. So basically, in Fitz's case, maybe he doubles down and he has the knowledge and the ability to go all in on a business venture and not have a 9 to 5 or some other source of income to rely on, as he pursues, you know, riches and wealth through the entrepreneurship avenue solely. But for the average Joe, they may want to keep that 9 to 5 or that, part-time or whatever stream of income they have as they wean themselves off of that and transition into entrepreneurship until that starts to pick up, because they're not sure, if they're disciplined enough at first, and they're still a little unsure of how it's going to turn out because they haven't invested as much in learning the business, learning the trade, and just aren't in the position to double down and know that it's going to be all right or have that faith. Basically, it's like it's just, you know what I'm saying? Like it's
I get what you're saying.
I get what you're saying. Yeah.
I get what you're saying. I just want to make it clear. I don't think there's anything wrong with the 9 to 5. What I was talking about specifically was for those who want to be entrepreneurs, and they have a 9 to 5 for the next 10 years. That's what I'm talking about. Like, I'm not saying that there's not a smart way to transition from a 9 to 5. What I'm saying is, like, if you have a 9 to 5 and you're making, let's say you have $2,000 in disposable income at the end of the month, and you choose to put that aside and save it every month, to me, that's playing defense. Instead of saying, let me spend a majority of this on getting out of this situation. And I think that if you're the average Joe, and that you're like Ty was saying, y'all been saying like the average Joe, it's like that's the problem. If you're thinking of yourself as average, then you're gonna do average stuff. So if you're, it makes sense. If you're the average person is playing defense, the average person is scared to invest in themselves because it may not work out. That's what average is. And when people go above average, those are the people that get the big rewards because they took the risk. It can be calculated risk. It can be, you can go into it with more knowledge and prepare yourself. But ultimately, the people that win big are the people that take bigger risks. Not saying go gamble or something, and that means that you're doing anything special. But I'm saying if you're building a skill and you're investing in yourself and you're taking those risks, that's different. You know what I'm saying? So that's what I mean by playing offense. But I do disagree that you can ever get ahead playing defense. I strongly believe that
you mean solely, right? Like only defense.
Just in general, if you're playing more defense than offense, not only defense, but if you're playing, like I consider going to work playing offense, right? But
if going like 9 to 5 work?
Yeah, whatever you're doing. Let's say you're an entrepreneur, right? If you're not investing back into your business, then that's gonna slow down, and it's pretty much just working a 9 to 5 because you're never gonna get to a point to where you have a business. You're always gonna have to be there in order to make money, right? So what I'm saying is that at some point, if you don't start playing offense and you're always going back to the worst case scenario, which is, oh, I could lose this job or I could stop getting clients at any moment. So I need to hoard all this and I need to make sure that I'm so insulated that if anything happens for the next 20 years, I'm good. You can spend 10 years just stacking up money, not doing anything with it. And that's 10 years that you could have been playing more offense and getting bigger and better and taking more risk and getting bigger rewards. I don't see how you could get ahead playing defense more than offense.
I think it goes back to the analogy though. Defense wins games, because if your defense is alley ooping you opportunities because you were playing defense instead of offense at the time, I think there's a time where you play offense and a time you play defense. So your defense sets up your offense to score. So with football, defense, you got interceptions, pick six, breakup passes, all those things. So your defense is able to defend the home front.
Mm-hmm.
So if you're just hanging like a 9 to 5, let's say you're saving up money, all right, and then eventually you're gonna do the entrepreneurship. Let's say you give yourself like a, I don't know, 3 to 5 year plan, whatever. Um, you're saving up money. So when you do get to that 3rd year mark or the 5th year mark or whatever, all that money you saved up, now you have nothing but time. Everything has opened up for you to where you can spend that money and skyrocket it, compared to if you're doing it while you're doing the 9 to 5, because then it's going to overlap to the point where it's like, okay, well, I've done this, but my 9 to 5 is still good. I got my promotion and I'm becoming more developed, but then you start developing more for your job rather than your business. So I think with those people who do save up money and play that defense, when you quit your 9 to 5, after 5 years, you have however much you have saved up. Now you have just a wide open field to run. And you can run at any pace you want to run at because you have the financial funds and you're able to get in different avenues and learn more things because you have more time compared to trying to balance out the 9 to 5 and then everything else. If you got kids, whatever, depending on who we're talking about. But the average person they have a kid, at least something, baby mama, girlfriend, whatever, boyfriend. So they also have to spread the time between that as well. So that's how, like, for me, you play defense until it's time to play offense. Your defense is gonna win you games, but then when the offense comes out, you gonna run the score up.
I think there's no real metric for this. I think it just depends on the situation. It's like, I don't think there's a clear cut, always do more offense than defense or always do more defense than offense. I don't think it's ever going to be clear cut. I think you just have to analyze the situation and make the right moves. Like when the pandemic first started, a bunch of stocks dipped in value, and a lot of people around that time,
because they were playing defense.
And a lot of people around that time started saving and holding on to their money, thinking, the pandemic, freak out, get toilet paper, everything. But it's like, if that was the time to go in on these stocks. Had you had bought Bitcoin in July of 2020,
she's so surprised, bro.
Around $2,000 at that time. Can you imagine that? $2,000 for one share of Bitcoin in July of 2020. Look at where it's at now. I know it done dipped because it crashed and now it's trading around, I think it's in the 30,000s, 40,000s. But at one point, it was close to $60,000. Just one share of Bitcoin jumps up like that. Had you had went in during that time, the stock market was going to bounce back. These things bounce back. It was the same thing during the recession. The stuff dips, and it's during those dips that you buy, that you go in. And most people, when crazy stuff happens.
Yeah, we were not a finance. You were not a finance.
But I'm not a financial advisor.
But this is the main point that I'm getting at.
Let me challenge you back on your comment about they were playing too much defense. They weren't playing enough defense, because if I was a business, I would already have things set in motions for things like this. They were playing too much offense, thinking, we good, everything's gonna be good all the time, we making money, we're in an autopilot right now. But once the COVID hit, they were running around like chickens with their head cut off because they didn't have no defensive plan. They were playing too much offense.
So I think defense is getting confused with anything that isn't necessarily offense. I think that you can play defense to set up your offense. I just don't think a lot of people play defense to set up an offense. I think a lot of people play defense just to keep playing defense. You know, like that's the point that I'm getting at. Like there has to be a purpose for your defense. If you're just going out there and we keep using football, if you're solely defense, if you just have a defensive team and you don't, let's say you have no offense, you will not win that game. If you don't have any offense, like you don't have anyone that can score, you don't even have anybody that goes out on the field to play offense when it's time. That's what I'm saying is like, there's a lot of people that they just don't want to lose, but that's not the same as winning in my eyes. Like not losing is not the same as winning. You know, for me, like if I can't, like I want more than I want, you know, like I don't want to know what I want. Where's the fun in that? Like, I want to think that I want something and then the opportunities come and now my eyes are opened up to much more. You know, like that's how I've gotten to where I'm at. I wasn't planning for any of this. I went in and I took action, and then through action, life presented me with more than I had asked for or thought that I was putting the work in. So I'm not saying defense is unimportant. I'm just saying if you're not playing defense with a purpose, like there's a difference between waiting to buy real estate and then just saying, you know what, I'm going to play defense so much that I never buy it. You know, I think that there's a big difference between that. And, you know, the reason I don't like comparing stocks to what I'm talking about is because with stocks, you don't really have any control of that. And a lot of people are just so enticed by the, oh, all you have to do is put money here. And if you would have put it here at this time, then you would have had this much. But you don't know that. But you do know, history shows that if you work consistent at something over a long period of time, it will pay off. And if you can replicate that in all these different areas, right? Like anybody, like you can get lucky hitting something. Like some people get lucky hitting the lottery, but can you teach that to your children?
No.
Can you pass that on to your children? No. So there's so many different ways that you can multiply the investments that you make into yourself and the offensive moves to where you can say, hey, look, if you do it this way, yes, there's a certain amount of risk, but if you do it this way, then you can get ahead. That's what I'm talking about when I say like worst case scenario and playing defense is like, you really have to have a purpose in order to not be average. If you want to be the average Joe, then just be the average Joe. But that's a different mentality.
So I just want to speak to the audience real quick because I feel like we're bouncing between a lot of different things. I just want to simplify and sum up my understanding of what we've been talking about here. I think at the end of the day, you just got to go for what you want. You know, I think that's what we're really trying to get at here is like, what do you want? You know, if you want something, you gotta make moves to get it. And you want to make smart moves to get what you want, right? Because we're not just randomly playing football and investing in stocks here, you know, concretely, or maybe abstractly, I don't know. We're really just talking about what do you want and what do you need to do to get what you want, right? And so if you need to go on the offense for something to get what you want, like I got to go out there and I got to put my name and my face out there and start talking to people saying, I'm doing this, I'm doing that, and try to get recognition so that you can maybe, I don't know, whatever you're trying to do. I don't know, I'm trying to example off the top of my head. The point is, you know, you got to make moves towards that. If your goal is to build wealth, which if you're watching this podcast, it's probably something along those lines. If your goal is to develop yourself, develop your mindset, or develop yourself, business wise and be more informed on entrepreneurship and just see some young entrepreneurs and check out what they're doing. That's probably why you're watching this. And if that's the path that you're on, then you just got to make those moves. You got to read, you got to watch videos like us, other people, and just know what you're trying to go after and then go after it. And sometimes that involves, being a little clever. I don't think it's all offense and defense. Sometimes you got to be clever. Sometimes it takes a little luck. Sometimes you got to juke somebody out and
okay. What do you have to say, Shalisha?
I'm
What
just
do you-
saying,
like,
I think it's
always
too-
on the
more,
defense, then it's gonna
you know, just go get it. Whatever you gotta do, go get it, man.
Tati gotta still go, boy.
I know. We gotta get Shalisha in here. She ain't really talk.
I've been listening. Y'all been having a lot to say today, especially Tati. You on fire. No, but I was just saying. I also feel like that if you do focus too much on the defense, then you're putting limitations on yourself, kind of, and you're not really taking risks. And you have to take the risk in order to get the big rewards.
Yeah, I agree with that. Like
Yeah.
you coming to Texas, that's an offensive move. But you're
Yeah.
working right now, but I don't consider you working right now as defense. Like, oh, I'm saving up money so that I can be offensive. I consider that offensive because you're moving forward.
Yeah.
Right. So
Mhm.
I just want to understand y'all's perspective when you're talking about defense. Like, what do you mean by a defensive move? Like think about a goal that you're trying to reach. How are you acting defensive right now when it comes to that goal?
Right now, I'm strictly on the offensive side. I feel like.
What about you, Ty? You said that you gotta have that balance. What are you doing right now that's defensive in terms of going after what you want?
Well, I mean, not really being defensive now, but before, was working the little 9 to 5 job to supplement me so I can move forward with the business side of things and what I want to do. Um, I think they overlap though. So for me, doing the 9 to 5, being quote unquote comfortable or whatever for the moment, that's being defensive because you're making a steady paycheck. You know what to expect. You can control certain things, but it's also offense because you're saving up money to flood what you want to do next. You know this is a temporary thing. So that's my example because I quit my job. That was me being defensive, but I'm offensive now, so I can move the way I want to move and step into what I'm about to step into. But I'm also going to I also got things set in motion where my defense is handling these little outside things so I don't have to pay any mind to them. Because then I can just keep doubling or tripling up on my offense, as you would say, Robert.
He's using the government name.
You said middle name?
I feel
government name.
disrespected.
Oh my
He
goodness.
has 2 of them, don't he?
Why?
Ooh,
That's
what
so
about the
wrong, man.
nickname?
Nickname.
Let me see if I can.
What's wrong with the
Robert
name?
Trump.
Let me see if I can add one more thing before we go.
Go ahead. I got that
Okay.
pressure for you.
All right.
Right.
So
Okay.
when it comes to playing offense,
Mm-hmm.
do you guys feel like over time, by playing more offense, you can learn how to play better defense? Because playing defense, it's different. You know, like if we're talking about, you know, playing defense just to play it, that I think that's different than playing defense with a purpose. So over time, you know, like when you were playing football, if you've faced a team multiple times and your offense has went out there and let's say you guys have dominated, then you know how to play defense a little better, I would assume. Like, you know, this is what we have to do to win. This is the amount of defense we may have to put in. This is the amount of offense we may have to put in. So I don't think you can really push the envelope enough to know how much defense to play unless you push the envelope with the offense. You know, like, and I just see so many people that push the gas pedal on the defense so much that they don't go out to win, they just go out to not lose, like I was saying earlier.
I agree with you.
I do have it's kind of like a question. How it's kind of a question because I don't know.
Kind of, sort of.
Wouldn't you best learn defense by playing defense? And wouldn't you best learn offense by playing offense? And I think what my understanding is what you're saying is in order to know what to defend against, you must first offend, and then through offending, you understand what to.
What in the world?
Defend
Think
against-
about a defensive driver. How can
Well,
you
I
ever
got-
be a defensive driver if you never get behind the wheel and drive?
What? No, that ain't even offensive. What about offensive drivers?
Listen. I got something that probably relates to me. So we got football going on. So in football, you're saying that in order to be able to play defense, you have to play offense. It's a little backwards actually, because you have to, in order to be a good defense, you have to learn how to play defense. But in order to be a good offensive player, you have to learn how to play defense. Because the thing about football and with corners, like Deion Sanders, he's like one of the top corners in the whole entire world. He knew everything about the offense, the playbooks, the schemes, the routes, everything. So that's what made him a great defensive player, because he already knew defensive-wise, he already knew what to do.
Let me ask you a
studied
question.
the offense. Go ahead.
Do you think you would be a better defensive player playing against a better offensive team or a worse offensive team?
Huh? Wouldn't it be easier
Both.
to defend if the offense was worse?
Both.
No, I'm saying not like, let's say you face a offensive team that's great, like the greatest offensive team of all time.
Oh,
After
okay.
that game, as a defensive player, do you think that you would have learned more from that game than playing against a team that was sorry offensively?
Yes.
Where you were slacking off and they wasn't even scoring.
Okay.
You know, like, I feel like someone that was
Balance.
playing against Kobe Bryant, like a defensive player, they would be a better defensive player after that game compared to if they were playing to somebody that was not a great offensive player, because of how much they learned by playing against a great offense. So when these people are learning how to play defense,
Okay.
they're not playing against other people playing defense. They're playing against an offense, right?
Okay.
But if they never get challenged from an offensive side, how can they be great defensive players?
Oh,
That makes sense.
okay.
It's a balance, because I think for me, playing the defense made me a better offensive player, because if my defense is the top defense in the country, the best of the best, when I get on offense, I can't be lackadaisical. I can't be lazy. I can't just make stupid moves because I'm up 100 points, because then that gives an opportunity for somebody else to capitalize on that. So for me, I felt like I started off as defensive, learning the things I need to be a good defensive player. Then once I mastered that, I was able to jump on the offensive side. And then I was able to run it up like crazy, because both of the sides were good.
So what you say makes me think of some cartoon, man. This makes me think of some cartoons that I've seen.
Those elks.
Man. I'm out
You
here with
better
the
not have no
moose.
elk.
I'm out here with
Yep.
the moose. I don't know what elk moose, man. Anyway.
So you're saying whoever messaged me was a moose?
What? No, I'm out here with the moose. I don't know what you doing. I'm with the moose.
So you're saying
Moose
Fitz
are
is a moose.
Ooh,
So you're saying moose. You're saying Fitz is a moose.
I don't know, but let me get this out because I'm about
Okay.
to forget it. Okay, so this make me think. When you talk about what you say, make me think of some cartoons I've been seeing where the character in the cartoon, like there's the main character in the cartoon, right? And they're trying to progress through the arc, through the cartoon. And as they progress in the cartoon, they come across stronger and stronger opposition. But through those trials and tribulations and overcoming that stronger and stronger opposition, they themselves grow stronger. But had they not been on the offense trying to push forward, they would have never came across that opposition and had the opportunity to face that opposition and learn how to face that opposition and how to overcome how to overcome that position, that opposition. How to overcome that opposition, right? So I think I'm starting to put together what you're saying. So what you're saying is, if I play defense and I stay stagnant, comfortable defending the same things all the time. When I actually try to go on the offense and something new comes my way that I've never defended against before, now I'm getting a side hit, winded, whatever it's called, when you get hit blindsided. I'm getting blindsided by this new opposition. And if I'm not prepared to step up and figure out on the spot how to take on that new opposition, then I can lose. And that's when playing defense too much or for too long without enough offense can backfire. And now you're not prepared for the offense, because the offense can always get stronger, but the defense can always get stronger too. But in order to know how to strengthen your defense, you have to know the offense.
Yes.
Right. But
ladies and gentlemen, Coach Tatiana.
Yes, that's you just summarized. You just summarized what I was saying. That's essentially what I was saying.
Okay.
Do you agree with that or disagree with that, Ty?
What the world? What Ty? What
Still coming from me.
Do you agree with it or disagree with it, Shalisha and Ty?
And me?
No, I think
You just talk.
yeah, I think it's not that I don't agree with you. I think one can't work without the other. So
I agree.
That's what more of I'm saying. Like they both overlap and they make you successful.
Okay,
Now, I mean, if you're being stagnant and just chilling, you gonna lose it all.
But what did we say at the beginning though? You were talking about the average Joe, and I think the average person has been playing defense most of their life. With the moves they're making. So that's why I'm talking about going in aggressive now, is because I'm thinking of that person. Like I don't want to tell people keep playing defense for this. I'm saying like make a choice now, like go on the attack now, because most people have been socialized to just play defense. They've been socialized to never take risk. They've been socialized to, make sure they manage their funds in a way to where they never lose money, but they're never taught how to gain money and get so far ahead that even if they do take a loss here and there, that they still have so much that it's not going to affect them. Like when you're living paycheck to paycheck and you lose, that source of income, that's going to hit you a lot more compared to if you've already made millions and then you stop making money for a few months. It's a different scale. So that's all I'm saying is at some point you do have to go on the offense and just push forward and get hit all those times, so that when you go on the defense again, like, okay, this is too much defense now. Like I'm not really progressing. I'm stagnant now. I'm being too defensive. I have to get out there and make some moves. I have to get out there and make something happen. Right?
Ooh, I just thought of something. Okay. Tell me if this fits in this, because if this fits in this, then okay, here we go. When I first started college, I think I mentioned this in a previous podcast, I had a lot of commitments. They were all good commitments, but I had too many, and my plate was overloaded with stuff. And that was me. That's me being on the offense. I'm going all out. I'm trying to learn as much and get as much information as I can. I'm going all out. I'm all over the place. Forget the defense. I'm over here doing this, doing that, trying to figure out what do I want? What do I need to be doing? Where am I going? And trying to do it all at once.
Yes,
now, fast forward. I've now lessened my commitments. I've taken a lot of things off my plate. And I would say now I'm in a good position, but say I took more stuff off my plate and maybe only had like a 9 to 5 on my plate, and that was it. And there's nothing else on my plate. I'm not in the book club. I'm not doing the water cleanups. I'm not volunteering at the food handouts. I'm not at the soup kitchen. I'm not doing nothing else. I'm not over here doing the side gig, the side hustles, none of that. I'm just 9 to 5 and that's it. Is that representative of what you're trying to say with with the defense. Now I've gotten really defense. I don't want to be overwhelmed with too many things, too many commitments on my plate. But now I've lessened it to the point to where I'm not gaining. Really, I'm just kind of stagnant. Is that what you're saying?
Yes.
Oh,
and
my
just
goodness.
to kind of, because we have to wrap up soon, but yeah, that's essentially what I'm saying is that if you want to be average, then be average. But I'm not talking to people that want to be average. I'm talking directly to people that want more than average. Yes, you need defense, but at some point you do have to go on the offense. And I think personally that by going on the offense, you'll learn how to play defense better. I'm not saying that you don't need defense. What I'm saying is that if you're not playing defense for a purpose, then ultimately your defense is just going to keep you where you're at or put you on a decline, because then when it's time to go into action mode, you're not going to know what to do because you've only been trying to preserve and not grow. Like if all you know how to do is save money but not make money, you're a great saver, but you need money in order to save it. But if you run out of a source to get the money from, then how are you going to save anything? That's essentially what I'm getting at. So, as we always do, everybody just give a quick practical piece of advice or two to our listeners. And maybe you can kick it off, Shalisha.
I would just say know what role to play and when to play it. I feel like there are a lot of different roles that are essential to your growth, especially as an entrepreneur, but just know how to play them and when to play them.
Right. All right, Tati. Quick piece of advice.
Oh, well,
This
I
ain't
think
about to be quick.
Oh my goodness, yes it is. Yes it is. Okay.
10.
So what? Wow,
8,
you're counting down.
7.
Look, man, just know what you want, because at the end of the day, that should be your guiding light. That should be your lighthouse, right there. It's just as long as you know what you want, you shouldn't be getting lost because you're doing things to get to that.
Go, girl.
I ran out of time. I don't know.
Go,
girl.
All right, Ty. What do you got?
Hey, bro, just run it up. You feel me? Run it up.
Yeah.
Just run it up.
Yeah.
Okay. And I'll leave y'all with this. Make sure you go click that like button, subscribe, comment, share. Check out the website, fitzmindset.com. It'll be up in a few days. If you need any coaching, hit me up. Got you. And I'll leave y'all with this practical piece of advice. Just prepare, plan, execute, complete, repeat.
Oh my goodness.
Yes. The 5 steps: prepare, plan, execute, complete, and then repeat. And in that, you will find the perfect balance that you need for your life when it comes to your offense and defense. Preparing, you're going to be able to play defense, but also offense at the same time, because you're prepared to do whatever you need to do. When you're planning, you're planning out where to put your offense and where to put your defense. Prepare, plan, execute. When you're executing, that's when you're just going straight in on your offense. When you complete, then you can review and see where you need to put more offense and defense. And when you repeat, that's when you learn. And then you say, okay, now I need to put this offense and this defense here so that I can eventually get to where I want to be. It is a balancing act. All I'm saying is that if you need to move forward right now, start taking action and figure out where your defense fits later so that you can at least get going. That's the whole point. Get going. All right. That's another episode of From the Bottom podcast. Go subscribe. We out.
From the bottom.
Don't do that. No. don't do that. They don't need this. That's not the last thing they need to see.
You do whatever you want to do, girl. Do it.
Yeah.
Be quiet, elk.
You do
Be
that.
quiet, elk.
What?
That